So today, I'm calling on all states and local governments to use funding they have received, including from the American Rescue Plan, to give $100 to anyone who gets fully vaccinated. I know the pain people who get vaccinated might sound unfair to folks who've gotten vaccinated. Unvaccinated people spread the virus. They get sick and fill up our hospitals.
It's time for people to see vaccination as literally necessary to living a good and full and healthy life. The key to NYC Pass will be a first-in-the-nation approach. It will require vaccination for workers and customers in indoor dining.
You know what it is? Life First, coming at you with another one. Hey, so what's going on, guys? Again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate everyone being active in the comment selection, because why? That's what free intent should look like, right? You should be able to express yourself, regardless of the fact, and that's just what it should be about, right? It should be more so for us. We should be able to be engaged into a conversation, regardless of the fact, even if we are at odds, right? But no one then should be able to then say to the next person, well, hey, you know what? I still, demand or mandate or make it to where it's mandatory that you should have to do the things that I'm saying in that regards, right? So now, to segue, we're going to talk a little bit about perception, right? Now, perception. Now, you got to say to yourself this, right? Given everything that's currently going on right now, and this is what I mean when I talk about it from a perspective of an intent, right? So meaning what? So when you think about everything that we're doing, what is the intent behind it, right? So again, we're talking perception, right? So now, if you look at this from a perspective of perception, specific to the intent, right? So what is this causing right now? Just look at it. Think about this sense of feeling that you're having, this sense of anxiety that you could be experiencing right now, just given everything that's going on right now. This is being ramped up, that's being ramped up. You can't say or do this, you can't look or smell that. Literally, when you just think about all of these narratives that's just being amplified, right? Again, you have to think perception, right? So what is that what is that doing to your perception? So every time based upon a certain frequency, right? And again, frequency is a result of combinations of words that's being expressed by a particular individual, right? Now, how that's conveyed is going to then emulate what levels of frequency is being put behind it, specific to the intent. So if you want to really get a full understanding to how that is all put together and done, highly recommend you check out some of the earlier videos to be able to get an understanding. So as we move on, so again, we're talking perception. So you got to ask yourself, with all of the information that is constantly coming out, again, specific to all of these quote unquote suggestions, right? Because that's when somebody will be like, what do you mean? This is just a suggestion, or this is just a recommendation, or in that regard, right? And then now all we're saying specific to these suggestions or recommendations, right? This is the best course of action we should go about it in terms of minimizing such exposures in that regard, right? Now, okay, so if you're an individual who is okay with the results of such process, then if you feel like the best course of action will then be to do such things, then that's your free choice, right? That's your intent. But again, regardless of the fact, right, you don't get to now then say, well, we went through a process, right? And then this was the results of such process. And because we feel it's necessary in order to minimize, then this is what we're saying in the form of a mandate, right? Because then again, at each facet of this whole entire thing, the moment now you're either choosing to be engaged into it or indirectly being engaged in it, you then have to say to yourself, something is pulling your attention away from you doing whatever whatever it is that you may want to do, or in that sense, right? Something is taking your attention away. So now you got to then say to yourself, what is this frequency that has it to where it's now capturing my attention to the point that where now it's being suggested that I have to engage in this, right? So that's something something I want you guys to really home into, right? You got to say to yourself, like, so for instance, if you want to be done with your phone, you turn your phone off. If you want to be done with the TV, turn it off. Radio, so forth, etc. Meaning what? You then having the ability to say, you know what, I had enough and I just want to simply turn it off. But for whatever this thing is saying, nah, you don't get to turn it off, because then why? Anything that you then want to do, it consists of you having to turn these things on in order for you to be able to gain access. So again, you got to then say to yourself, when did you sign up for this? When did you sign up for someone literally telling you that in order for you to be able to do you, then this is the way you have to go about it? And then if you don't, then these are the circumstances you have. When did you say that, yeah, you know what? At some point, this is the level of that I'm okay going through, because I understand that you individuals are going to go through your process, right? But you don't really got to share any of the information. And if anyone comes and speaks against it, yes, I want you to silence them. Because again, when the heck, right? See, and this is the thing I try to tell people, right? Even within their own biases, when they try to turn around and then say, well, that might be a bias, so forth, etc., right? I then would then say to those individuals, you're only talking about it from one side of the spectrum, right? You're not even talking about it from the other side of the spectrum. Now, again, why is that important? If these if this particular thing that exists on the spectrum, the only way it exists, it has to have a counter argument. But it's just so interesting that when individuals talk about it, they only talk about it from their biases, specific to how it's being amplified, right? But not even talk about it from the other side. So what does that look like, right? So I might say to a person, hey, I'm not going to sit here and make the argument that based upon the perception of what I'm talking about. Meaning what? I'm not going to sit here and now talk about something while making points as if I am trying to counter my own argument, right? Why would I do that for? Because that's what the other side is doing, specific to whatever it may be, right? So ultimately, I'm just gonna be able to convey whatever I'm trying to convey, specific to the intent that I'm putting behind it. I'm not gonna convey it and then be like, but then I can't say this because then this group is gonna retaliate or whatever the case may be. Because ultimately, all you're doing is you're feeding into that kind of ideology. You're feeding into them, making it to where yes, these things is it has that kind of a control, right? And this is why it's very important when you say certain things, what kind of an intent that you're putting behind it, because now you're tying that to your belief. It's now you're saying you're putting it out there, you're manifesting this out there, right? That yes, this is how I feel, and this is how I could see the results of this going. And this is why a lot of the times, in order to get this herd going in a certain direction, the number one thing is fear, right? They leverage fear. Everything is based upon fear, right? So I didn't really want to make this one too much of a long one. Just something I wanted you guys just to think about again. Perception, right? You really got to say to yourself, right? What is shaping this perception, right? And again, like we always say here, it's participants, right? In order for this perception to work, it needs participants. But then you then have to say to yourself, right? If you're trying to go on with your day to day, right, whatever that may be, now, rightfully so, right? Who gives the other person the right to tell you that now, in order for you to be able to gain access into X, Y, and Z, then you got to go about it in these particular manners, right? Just even being outside, these individuals is suggesting certain narratives, right? So with that being said, again, you got to then say to yourself, a network, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about a network and ultimately why is having a network extremely important. Again, this has been Life First. I appreciate all the love again. I appreciate all the new members. Again, thank you guys very much. Please like, share, comment. Until the next one, we out.
for vaccinations. They work. And yes, I am all for making them mandatory. You take your chances for the good of the many, like my generation had to go through getting drafted.